Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hello Hot Flash. I'm excited to be here with my guest today, Dr. Lulu. Dr. Lulu, thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome, Stephanie. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. I'm very excited for this conversation. But before we get started, I'm going to give you a formal introduction, and then folks will get to know me.
Woohoo.
I know. Woohoo.
Okay.
All the good, get all the good stuff out first. Well, it's going to all be good, but you know what I mean. So our guest today is Dr. LuLu Shimek. She is a renowned naturopathic physician and leading authority in women's health, biohacking, and genetic analysis. With a proven track record of successfully treating chronic diseases such as hormonal imbalances, thyroid disorders, gastrointestinal dysfunction, depression, anxiety, and fatigue, Dr. Lulu is a true health trailblazer. I forgot the true health in front of it. Got to get those other adjectives in there. I'm so excited to have you here. I love when I talk to naturopathic doctors because I'm like, they get it. It excites me so much. So we're going to have fun today. So tell me,
Totally. Thanks for that amazing intro.
yes. Tell me a little bit about tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So, like you said, Stephanie, I'm a naturopathic physician. I have a practice I live in Asheville, North Carolina, in the mountains, but actually have a telemedicine practice. I don't have a brick and mortar or clinic. I used to have that, but when COVID happened, that kind of like all went up in smoke.
Yeah.
And I had an 18 practitioner, huge clinic, and so I closed it. Had to close it down. And then after COVID, I just decided to stay solo and have a telemedicine practice, and it actually is much more empowering to me. It gives me more time to do things that I want to do. Gives me more time to help patients, really help to empower them. I can do more retreats and programs, and I can see patients in a much broader scale around the world. So it's a win-win.
It really is. I hear a lot of I've been talking to quite a few physicians lately, and a lot of them decided with that pivot of COVID to just stay where they were and are finding what you said, that ability to connect more with the patient, and they are enjoying that. So happy you're still around and happy you found a way that works best for you and for the patients. That's awesome. So what inspired you to become a naturopathic physician, and how did you develop your expertise in women's health, biohacking, and epigenetics?
Well, that's a lot of
That's a
information
lot of
there, but
stuff.
I'm going to keep it short. Yes. So I think I was thinking about this before we were coming on to talk today. Like, what really inspires me to do what I do? And it's really about like helping other women feel the best that they can be. And through my kind of like journey over the past 25 years as an alternative health practitioner, I kind of like added more tools to my toolbox, right? So I started out as a yoga teacher and then a massage therapist and herbalist. So when I finally decided, I was like, you know what? I really want to help people in a much like bigger sense, in that I could really figure out, like, diagnose the disease, right? To really like figure out like what's going on at that deep cellular level. And
Right.
that was when I decided to go to naturopathic medical school. So it's really about my love for helping other women, and not just women, I do help men too, but helping people feel amazing.
Yeah. I love what you said about getting to the root cause, because I don't think a lot of people understand the difference between a naturopath and going to their
Mm.
primary care physician, and how you actually take the time to get to that root cause. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Mm. Sure. Oh, that's such a great question. So, when you see a typical medical doctor, like we call them allopaths or MDs, they're going to treat or look at just your symptoms, right? They're going to, let's say you have a headache,
Mhm.
and then they're going to get something for that headache, just symptom plus this. From the different perspective is from the naturopathic perspective, I'm not treating symptoms. I'm
Mhm.
treating what is the deep underlayer. What's that root cause? So, with all my training, I'll look at all the different systems in the body that are out of balance that might be causing that headache. That could be nutrient deficiency. That could be hormones. That could be stress. That could be spinal misalignment. I mean, there's so many different things that can cause a headache, as an example. But we want to really look at what's the underlying cause, because that's the only way to really help the vitality of the body. Otherwise, we're suppressing those symptoms deeper and deeper, and the more things are going to occur. The headache will turn into bigger things like migraines or different hormonal dysfunctions down the road.
Yeah, I am like team naturopath, because I don't know if you're familiar with my story, but in 2 years, I went to 18 different doctors, 2 world-renowned medical facilities, in and out of ERs. So the naturopath being able to get to the root cause of what was going on helped me not become a person who was medicated. So that was kind of my goal. There was an alignment that was off. My nutrition levels were off. Like everything you listed was off in me, and it was like putting this puzzle together. But the person I worked with took the time to put the pieces of the puzzle together for me. So that's why I think it's I always say you still go to your primary care physician if you need to, or you do your yearly blood work and so forth. But when you have something that can't easily be diagnosed, or you want another path so that you can maybe use nutrition as your healer, let food be thy healer. Go see naturopath. So thank you so much for what you do. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what you said, Stephanie, too, about, having that timepiece, because that is a difference between us for sure. When you just see someone who only has 15 minutes, how can they really understand what's going on in your body? And I think we'll see that continue to evolve and shift over time with medical care over the next, 5, 10 plus years.
Yeah. So important for us. So a lot of folks come on, either they're guests on the podcast or they've listened to the podcast, and they're having adrenal gland or thyroid issues. First of all, tell us what that is, and then also talk to us about how that affects the woman's health and their overall well-being.
That's great. Did you want me to talk about both of those, adrenal fatigue and thyroid disorders, or just pick one? I just want to be clear.
I would like for you to cover both so people can understand the difference between the two as well.
Yeah. Okay. So true. So adrenal fatigue, basically the adrenal glands, they're these little tiny, like little hats almost that sit on top of the kidneys in the back of the body. They do a lot of different functions in the system. Basically, you could think about them as they control salt, sugar, and sex in the body. And also they work with epinephrine. So that adrenals, right? That adrenal hormone, adrenaline. So some symptoms that can happen, you could have fatigue, anxiety, difficulty managing stress. So there's so many different symptoms that fall into the category of adrenal fatigue that sometimes it can be hard to diagnose just from symptoms, right? Like I mentioned before. So we're going to go to that root cause, but you can see it's very broad, but in one sense, we're really looking at the fatigue. And when I would say 95% of my patients come in and say that they're fatigued. So not everyone has adrenal fatigue, right? You have to kind of suss it out with testing and things. But so looking at adrenal glands, it's kind of really about what that phase of fatigue is, what's been going on. And a lot of it has to do with stress. That's like the main factor when it comes to adrenal fatigue is where is stress in your life? How have you been managing it? And what level is it at? Like, are you at an acute level? Are you so far gone into chronic that you're really fatigued? You're just you can't even manage to get out of bed. So that's one piece. And the adrenal systems then, they have this, it's called the HPA axis, and they're working in function or conjunction or homeostasis with the thyroid. So they're always playing this game, this loop within each other. And the thyroid is the little gland in our neck, and it's a massive organ that really communicates with the pituitary gland and the adrenal system. And symptoms of that could be hair loss, weight gain, or weight loss, because you can go hyperthyroid or hypothyroid. You can have appetite changes, mood swings. So there's lots of different issues. You can have heart palpitations. You can have dry skin. So again, those symptoms also are more, kind of can be general. So we always test don't guess. So those two things are similar, right? I kind of said some things like, oh, maybe I have a little bit of that or a little bit of this, right? So you want to make, yes, check, check, check. So yeah, when I do see a patient coming in and they're telling me about some of the symptoms, right? I do want to hear the patient's symptoms. I want to kind of categorize those, see what's going on. And then like, okay, how are those symptoms related? How long have you had those? Let's do some functional medicine testing and really go in and see like, okay, yeah, this cortisol is in the tanker, or the thyroid is so out of balance that we really need to bring it back in alignment. Now, for the thyroid, we can't forget that we have Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. So it can move into a position of an autoimmune disease. So that's really important to test antibodies for that, because if it's in an autoimmune state, we really need to look at it from a different place of quote unquote treatment and really helping the body get back in balance in that way.
I think that's so important to understand it too, because I've heard people talk about them and it sounds like I don't want to say mix them up because I don't want anyone to sound like they don't understand, but do you know what I mean? It feels like sometimes they'll assume that one is the other. I guess that's the best way to say it. So that's why I wanted you to talk about the distinction between adrenal fatigue and then having a thyroid issue. So I appreciate that. So how does
they're so overlapping.
Yes. So how does adrenal fatigue develop, and what are some of the, you talked about some of the signs and symptoms, but go a little deeper. What should people be looking for? When should there be cause for concern?
Yeah, great question, Stephanie. So if you're listening and tuning in out there and you're like, I'm having a lot of fatigue, does this mean I have adrenal fatigue, right? So we want to look in kind of, it breaks down into three kind of phases. Hans Selye, he developed these kind of like three phases of adrenal fatigue. And within that, we can really kind of start to see what phase we're in. So if you're feeling fatigued, and how I really recommend, if you're listening out there and you're feeling fatigue, is hasn't been going on for a long period of time, right? And so that, you can't ever seem to bounce back. That's a really good way to be like, okay, this is really going on. Like, I'll give a great example of myself. So I had a car accident in January, and, car accidents can kind of be crazy, and they can, all kinds of stress levels. I was, having some physical stress, emotional stress, financial stress, new car. So all those pieces. And I noticed that my energy kept kind of going, more and more and more depleted, right? I was like, I'm just feeling tired. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do the basic chores. I just, I want to lay down, take a nap. So that's when I started to think, I think my adrenals are really starting to take a toll. And I brought in some things to help right away. So you want to just recognize how you're managing stress. That's a huge one, right? And maybe even, are you recognizing stress? I think a lot of people don't even understand what their stress is, right?
Right. Very true. What I hear through all of this is you become a detective. So that's like
exactly. Yes.
That's your role, to become that detective. And I often talk about people advocating for themselves and doing their own detective work. But I found that working with a naturopath, they also can help you dig a little deeper, because just like you said, sometimes we don't recognize what is stressing us out. When I was sick over those 2 years, there was one particular thing that was stressing me out, but I thought I was handling it fine until someone mentioned it to it, and we started a conversation, and then I started journaling on it. I'm like, oh, okay, that is stressing me out. Now I need to do X, Y, Z. So again, I appreciate the fact that you're actually helping people, as we said before, get to the root cause of what is going on, so then they can be supported. Yes.
That's so true. Yeah. And I do a thorough questionnaire, right? I want to see not only the physical things that are going on, but the mental and the emotional piece. And then when it comes to that stress, I have a specific questionnaire where I want to see all those categories of stress and score it. Like if you're getting like, a score of XYZ, I'm like, okay, we can see that you have a lot of chronic stress. Let's measure your cortisol levels, right?
Something else that I always pick up on is that I appreciate your getting blood work done. I appreciate the other tests that are being taken. But when you're working with a naturopath and even a functional medicine person, a lot of times there are additional types of testing that can take place that you may not be able to get at your primary care physician. And a lot of times it's out of pocket, so people avoid them. But I will tell you, that is, in 2 years, every test in the book, $20,000. I took a $200 test, and it was like magical, because I was able to see myself in the results and go, oh, wow, that's important. Oh, wow, that is what is really happening. So I always like to advocate for the naturopaths and advocate the specific type of testing that they do. So again, I'm just like naturopath today. Can you tell?
Yes, totally. But that's so important, Stephanie. I love that you brought that up because it can be expensive, but there's reasons that we're recommending certain tests. And I always, talk about the tests with patients and walk them through, like, why are we doing this? Like, for instance, for someone with adrenal fatigue, I want to do heavy metals tests. I want to see if they're heavy metals toxicity. I want to do a nutrient test for nutrition. I want to see how their hormones are doing. What's their cortisol levels like? I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything as a detective, right? And then, like you said, it's usually this light bulb goes off. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, look at that piece. I didn't even know that this was so out of balance, right? And you don't see that type of testing with a regular annual blood work. You just don't, because it's a snapshot, boom, in that moment. You don't see like the bigger picture.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so valuable. I always, when people mention the cost associated, I'm like, think of how much you would pay in medical bills. Or for me personally, I was so sick. I just bought a brand new car, like, and I had another vehicle. So I sold my brand new car. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get this testing done so I can heal my body. And now if you really like calculate it out, I've been healed for so long, I haven't had to go to the doctor. So it all balances out in the end. So I just think that your health is
does.
yeah, your health is such a good investment overall because you can't work, be a parent, do anything if you're not healthy. So yeah, I think it's a great investment. So
100% agree with that.
yes, yes. What are some lifestyle changes that may support people? Specifically, let's talk about adrenal fatigue again. What are some lifestyle changes that they can?
Great question. So that's a huge component, basically like refinessing, right? Or basically making huge changes in how you've been managing your life with your stress level. So one piece of that is routine. So I walk my patients through how to create a routine that's very specific from morning to evening. And that's with getting adequate sleep, eating a balanced diet, filled with nutrient dense foods. A lot of times that can be low sugar because the adrenals, remember I mentioned about salt, sugar, and sex. So that sugar piece, our adrenals really control sugar balance. So if we're not eating a lot of sugar or alcohol or caffeine, it'll just cause these waves of the adrenal system to crash. Stress techniques, hands down, one of the most important pieces of adrenal fatigue is managing stress. So that can be yoga, mindset, breathing, meditation, going to the gym, doing specific types of exercise. I always work with patients with what piece of that is the best for them. Sometimes being a type A cardio person is not good for your adrenal system, right? It's like you're running yourself into the ground.
Yes.
So doing relaxation techniques. So yes, exercise and avoiding caffeine and sugar, like I said, that's really key. And then seeking out support from a healthcare practitioner like myself or someone else, having that person on staff, right? Or in your back pocket, helping you to guide you through those lifestyle changes. Really, and supplementation. And I'm not like a pusher of vitamins and minerals and supplements, but it's really key when you have adrenal fatigue because you have to support the mitochondria of the cell, which are basically our energy powerhouses, and they've gone totally in the toilet. So you got to support the system, whether that's B vitamins, magnesium, whatever the body needs to bring it back into balance.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also think about how our food system is and how long it takes us to get something from ground to stomach. We're losing a lot. And then some people overcook their food as well. So you're not getting all those nutrients. So a lot of times you do need to supplement to get those nutrients. I eat primarily vegetarian. Every once in a while, I'll have like a piece of salmon. So even for me to think about what I may be missing, my B's, because I'm not getting what I need all the time for my food. So I know people, again, are sometimes like, I'm not going to take all those vitamins. You don't need to take all the vitamins, but as you said, there may just be a type of deficiency that you will be amazed how much better you feel when you replenish that deficiency in your body.
So true. And it's really quality too. It's not about just going to, like Walgreens, not that I'm just saying place, but it's not about just going to your regular pharmacy and just pulling things off the shelves.
Yeah.
You need to have someone that is recommending vitamins, nutrient supplements that have a good stamp of approval behind them, right? That I recommend things I know that work, that either I take or I know that the company is really reputable, because otherwise you're flushing your money down the toilet.
I agree, literally and physically. So it's so funny you said that, because usually I'm like, when you start talking, I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. I didn't get on a don't buy cheap vitamins bandwagon. It was coming. You just beat me to it. So I appreciate you saying it first. That is, they're like, but I got
Yes.
900 for $12. I'm like, yeah, okay. Don't take
Right. But are you feeling any better? It's
yeah.
all about how you feel too. And I always tell my patients, if you're taking something and you're not noticing it, let's try it for 3 months, right? If I really think that it's working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes some things are slower than others, but
Mm-hmm.
let's give it 3 months, because that's your cells remake themselves, especially the red blood cells every 90 days. If you don't see anything, let's change it out. Right. Because we don't want to continue like buying the same vitamin over and over again. Your body needs something new and different. And that's boring, right? Your brain is going to say like, boring. I don't like that. Give me something else.
Right. I like that suggestion too. And I honestly, I never thought about that, but I've been taking a certain brand for years. It works very well for me. But now I've found that as I'm aging and getting to either another stage, I'm starting to switch those out a little bit better and feeling better. It is, you're right. It's like my body got used to it. And I wasn't even conscious of that until you just said that. So thank you for being my detective. I always say if I get there an episode and I learn something, I'm happy.
Like, ding. Yes, totally.
Free therapy is what I call it. So you also talk about biohacking, which I think is so cool. So how can someone use
Yeah.
biohacking to optimize their hormones and overall health? And what are some of the most effective techniques that you would recommend?
That's such a great question. Now, when it comes to biohacking, it's kind of like a broad category. And let's kind of like be specific about hormones and that, like you mentioned, just so we
Yeah.
can kind of hone in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're looking at let's take adrenal fatigue, because that's a perfect place for us to talk about it. So what we're really wanting to do is increase energy, and biohacking uses that kind of like technology, right? It uses science and technology and health, like coming all together. So one of the great ways to do that is to track your sleep and track your stress. And that could be like with an Oura ring or some type of management like that. So tracking it is when I work with patients with biohacking, it empowers them to use a tracking device, because we can actually see what's working and what's not working. It's like in the real moment in time. For example, like a glucose monitor, if you have insulin resistance, right? We want to see if you eat something, what's the change right away? If you exercise, what's that change, right? So when we're looking at biohacking techniques, one is we want to use them, the actual technology, to help empower us as women to really be in that real time moment. Now, we can also look at other pieces I already mentioned. Exercise is a big component, improving sleep quality, managing stress. All those pieces are biohacking. But one of my favorite pieces is using hot and cold therapy. And I know that cold therapy is kind of like the rage out there right now, but I'm talking really about contrast hydrotherapy. And the reason that I like to use this for adrenal fatigue is it really helps to boost the energy in the mitochondria of the cell. So that's using hot therapy and sweating specifically. So that way we're really like detoxifying the system, or really even helping people sweat, because a lot of people don't sweat that have adrenal fatigue. It's like their body's in this total like wrapped up mode, like all squinched up, right? Like a little raisin. So we want to hydrate the body and get the body sweating. This opens up the detoxification pathways, right? And then we want to add in a little contrast cold therapy. And that doesn't have to be necessarily a cold plunge. It can, but it can just be like a cool shower, right? Sometimes people in adrenal fatigue, or thyroid specifically too, can't handle those huge contrasts in temperatures. Right. So when we bring in that cold therapy, it's going to have this rush of cells back and forth in the immune system to really help to bring the healthy cells back and forth. So it's like this surge of circulation. It helps boost the immune system, helps boost the lymphatic system, getting things flowing again. So I find that biohacking technique is one of my favorites. I use cold and hot therapy all the time myself, and my patients love it. You can also, like I said, you don't have to have the extreme of doing, like cold plunge for 10 minutes, which a lot of people, it's hard for people to do that, but you could just do it in your shower. Super simple.
Yeah.
Run your hot shower and then turn it to cool. Be in that cool water 30 seconds, then turn it back to hot. Do another 3 minutes. So you want to do like 3, 3, 3. Hot for 3, cold for 30 seconds, repeat 3 times, 3, 3, 3, easy to remember. And if you do that, like even pick that for 30 days, doing it every day, you'll totally see a difference in your energy. So that's a really great, simple biohacking technique.
Oh, I'm like, all right, podcast over. Got to go jump in the shower.
Like, I'm so on that one. Yes.
No, that one excited me. So I have a local naturopath, and he did some healing around something similar, like using this cold hot therapy, problems with his shoulder, about to have surgery. He's like, wait, naturopath, I can figure this out. And did the I didn't even consider it biohacking. He didn't term it that way, but he was able to heal himself that way. So testimony that this works. You know what I mean? So all right.
Yes.
I love it. I learned 2 things. Can you come back to
Nice. Of course. Yeah. So biohacking does, again, it also has a overlapping with a lot, being a naturopathic physician, biohacker, and functional medicine practitioner. To me, they kind of like are all kind of this interconnected piece. I'm using all the tools all the time to really go in, investigate with my detective hat how we can optimize the body's health and be like superhuman. That's really a lot about biohacking is to be the best that you can be, optimizing every piece of your body.
I love that. Give me the 3-3-3 again. It's 3 hot, 3 cold.
Okay, yeah, sure. Times. Hot shower for 3 minutes, 30 seconds of cold, as cold as you can stand it, but not like, screaming in the house. Right. And then you want to repeat that 3 times, ending on cold.
End on cold. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about
that. Yes, it's a great one. And really good for the thyroid. You can just do it straight on the thyroid. So if we're talking about thyroid, you could even just do, what I'll have patients do is do like a cold towel in the shower, and just put that, have that really straight, or you can put the cold shower straightly on the neck. But that's a really good one, just like really specific contrast for the neck. And that really allows those immune cells to be supported, especially with Hashimoto's, like thyroiditis.
Does it help with lymph drainage as well? The lymphatic?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, super good. And the other piece of that is skin brushing. Skin brushing is really good for helping with lymphatic drainage. Really good because it's on that kind of like superficial, if you're looking at your sweater and you hold up your sweater, it's that like skin, that's the lymphatic fluid runs right underneath that skin layer. So we want to do something that's really helping to stimulate that. And skin brushing is great for that.
I love it. I'm so excited. I don't even want to, like I said, podcast over. I'm going to no, this is amazing. Anytime there are so many ways, non-medicinal ways to heal the body. If you take the time to learn about them, if you take the time to understand your body, there's miracles happening everywhere. There's so many ways to heal the body. So this has been some really fantastic information. I really appreciate it. Dr. LuLu, tell us the best mental health advice that you've ever received.
There's so much. I think that the best mental health advice that I've received is daily meditation. And I lived at a yoga retreat center for 6 months, and I meditated like 3 hours a day. And that is not what you want to do. Wow. So, no, yes, I'm talking about just a short one, yes. 10 to 15 minutes every day. That is the best mental health vacay you can do. And if you need to have you're like having a harder day, put a little mini session in the afternoon and then the evening. And that will really help to put you into that parasympathetic state, resting and digesting, reset the adrenal glands. Super great for increasing energy and really helps to reset the mind. So meditation.
If you were going to give one piece of advice, free advice that a listener could have to help them manage their hormones, what would be that advice?
I would say testing. And I know we didn't talk a lot about it, but doing hormonal testing. If you suspect that you are having some hormonal imbalances just from the things we talked about today, it's really important to get testing and regular testing. Like myself, I do hormone testing once a year to make sure that everything because I'm changing and aging, like as women, we all do, right? So doing regular testing is prevention. It's going to help you, fine tune things. That's what you want to have optimal health. You don't want things, especially with hormones, to really tank quickly, right? If you're in a state of stress, you want to be managing it, right? Keeping your hands on your health. It's not like something that you want to keep at a hand's distance. You want to be right in your face. So testing actually is one of my highest recommendations.
I love that. Dr. Lulu, tell us how the listening audience can find you.
Great question. So, of course, you can stalk me on Instagram. I love it. And that's at Dr. LuLu Shimek. And then you can also go to my website. I have lots of wonderful resources there. And that's doclulu.com. What's up, Doc?
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much for being a guest with us today. I enjoyed it. I'm super excited for folks to listen in to this episode.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Everyone, thank you once again for listening to Hello Hot Flash, where we help you control the midlife change. Make sure to check out the show notes where we include links to all the subjects we covered today. And if you want to manage your hormones so you can sleep better, have more energy, and manage your weight, take the quiz on hellohotflash.com. It only takes 90 seconds. Here's to your health.